welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about 10 surprising things that may contain gluten. It's actually a little bit more than 10, but 10 sounds catchy, so we're just going to keep it at that. Not only that, we're also going to talk about a couple of food items that you might think have gluten in them, but are actually safe. And at the end, I reached out to you guys on Instagram to tell me what is the strangest place you've found gluten as an ingredient. Let's jump into it. Our first one today is soup mixes. By soup mixes, I mean the sort of dried packet mix that you just add hot water to, boil it, maybe fill it out with a few vegetables, some meat or something. I don't know, I actually don't make soup that often now I'm realizing it. The gluten in this could come from a couple of places. Sometimes they'll have wheat flour in it to thicken it out, but quite often I've found barley pearls to be in the ingredients of soup packet mixes. Barley, of course, having the gluten protein in it, so a big no-no for us gluten-free people. I do admit I haven't made this type of soup very often over here in the UK, but there is one brand that I'm thinking about in New Zealand that's quite common. Can't remember the name, but I'll put a picture of it up here. This one contains barley pearls, so watch out for that one. Number 2, mustard. What is mustard? Mustard is a flour, I believe, that tastes pretty tangy. And unfortunately, when you buy it as the spread kind, it can contain wheat. The brand that I'm specifically thinking about, the most famous brand, is Coleman's mustard, but don't be fooled. This packet here is actually gluten-free. Woo! This is mustard powder and it is just mustard flour. There is nothing else in it. But Coleman's also do the dip or spread kind, and that one does have gluten in it. Why? I don't know. Why is gluten in anything? This one is safe. This one is not. Okay. Number 3. Legumes and beans. Now this one's more of a may contain item, or it's been a may contain mostly in my experience, and that just comes down to where it's processed, what instruments it's processed on, and what it's processed with. So for example, this brand of lentils is not safe for celiacs because it does have a may contain gluten warning. I do believe they have some flavored lentil mixes in their range and they do contain gluten as an ingredient, so maybe it comes down to the fact that they're all processed on the same line. Now this one is a bit of a strange one, and I'm surprised I haven't made a whole video on may contains, but may contains is something that's totally up for the individual to eat. Some people think it's a massive no-no. Some people think it's just a legal statement to cover the company's bums, and wherever you sit on that scale, you do you, man, but just letting you know it might be a may contain. But also on top of that, if you are getting some sort of pre-made bean mix, like a nacho bean mix, taco bean mix or stuff like that has a sauce in it, make sure you're checking those ingredients as well, because sometimes they use wheat flour as a thickener. Number 4, supposedly gluten-free flours. Now, I'm not talking about flours that are specifically labeled gluten-free. Of course, they are absolutely fine for us. I'm talking about the different types of flours that don't contain gluten, like tapioca flour, rice flour, corn flour, brown rice flour, sweet rice flour. Don't know why I'm drawing a blank. There's like a million types of flours. The reason why these are on the list is because quite often different sorts of flours are all manufactured in the same place where wheat flour is manufactured. And there is quite a few examples of that over here in the UK. The Whole Foods flours, I believe, are all may contains across the range. And there's also this brand that you find quite often in organic independent stores that also has a may contain warning across their flour range as well. But never fear, there are other flours that we can buy. One of the ones that I use quite often is the Planet Organic range. That's where I get my tapioca flour. Tapioca flour, for some reason, can be so difficult to find. Planet Organic has it if you're over in the UK. And as you can see, it says organic, gluten-free tapioca flour, and there is absolutely no may contain warnings in the back. There are may contain warnings for tree nuts and soybeans though. Number 5, Playdoh. Now, a lot of people already know about this one, but it can be a bit of a surprise when you work it out for yourself. Playdoh is completely gluten, and while us adults don't generally eat Playdoh, there are youngins that might stick it in their mouth as well, so that's always one to watch out for. Number 6, salami and sausages. Now, unfortunately, I don't know whether it's to save on money or what, some brands of meats, some brands of meats. Don't know if that sounds right. Some meat manufacturers like to fill out their sausages and processed meat with a little bit of wheat flour. I don't know whether if that's like a cost efficient thing or why they're doing it, I don't know, but there is plenty of gluten-free sausages around. They aren't even labeled gluten-free because they just don't use wheat in the ingredients. But it is a tricky one, and one you should be checking the label of when you are buying your sausages or salami, or even your vegetarian sausages. Heaps of vegetarian sausages have wheat in them. What? Number 7, hot chocolate mixes. Yes, unfortunately, some hot chocolate mixes do contain gluten. Now, this is generally from barley or barley malt extract, and while some barley malt extract can be gluten-free, it isn't unless the packet says it is a gluten-free product. And for my New Zealand friends, although it's not necessarily hot chocolate, I think it's kind of its own thing. Of course, Milo is not gluten-free. What is that? Basically just malt extract? God, I miss Milo. Can somebody please ask Milo to make a gluten-free version of it? But never fear, there are lots of brands of hot chocolate mixes that are completely gluten-free. One of my favorites, it's not a powder, but it is shavings of chocolate. Oh my goodness, and you mix it in with milk over the stove. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Is the Noops one. Their whole range of chocolates for hot chocolate making is completely gluten-free, so I'd give that one a go if I were you. Number 8, makeup. Some makeup and skincare products do have gluten in them, but it's not necessarily going to be a problem unless it is going to be around this area, being your mouth. Gluten is only a problem for celiacs if it's ingested into the stomach, which could mean lipsticks, lip glosses, lip creams. I'm sort of talking more of the lip area, but if you find that anything else goes in your mouth, then you probably should be checking if it has gluten in it. There is a wee caveat to that. If you have a wheat allergy and you find that anything touching your skin with wheat in it is causing you to, I don't know, break out, have some symptoms, probably stay away from that on the whole. And that kind of loops into our next one, number 9, shampoo. Yes, it's true there are some brands of shampoo and conditioner that do contain small amounts of gluten. However, because it's going on your head and hopefully not in your mouth, you should essentially be okay. Perhaps maybe it's something you more want to look out for little ones if they're more prone to doing something like this. But if you are pretty confident in your ability not to get hair products in your mouth, you should be absolutely fine. But once again, if you react to wheat on the skin or have some sort of wheat allergy, might not be for you. Number 10, chips. Chips or crisps, or in fact both, can often contain gluten, and that can come from several things. It could be the flavoring, it could be a coating if you're eating oven fries, it could be just because they are near other things that contain gluten. Unfortunately, chips and crisps are just one of those things that you're going to have to be continuously checking for the rest of your life, because there is no rhyme or reason as to which has gluten in it and which doesn't. You could have a brand of chips that taste fantastic that don't have gluten in it, and then a brand that is exactly the same, tastes exactly the same, and does contain gluten. There's no rhyme or reason for it. This is one I get passionate about because I love chips, or crisps, all of them. In terms of oven fries, it's a little bit more understandable. Some oven fries have like a batter on it, so you're probably more in luck when you're looking for just pure potato fries. That doesn't make sense. I feel like you're more likely to find gluten-containing chips when you're having things like wedges, curly fries, or shoestring fries. Chunky chips, I've found, are more likely to be gluten-free. But you know, there's also chunky chips that do contain gluten, and there's also wedges, curly fries, and shoestring fries that don't. So just keep checking. Number 11, medicine. Yes, unfortunately, something that is designed to heal us could even make us sick. But don't worry, here in the UK, there are very few amount of medicines that actually contain wheat starch. I wanted to be super accurate about this, so I'm on the Coeliac UK website right now. And they say that if a medicine contains wheat starch, it should be written on the label in the patient information leaflet. The requirements for labeling means the label must state that the product contains wheat starch. However, you'll find that some of them have messaging such as suitable for people with celiac disease, patients with a wheat allergy, different from celiac disease, should not take this medicine. They also go on to say in almost all of the cases, an alternative medicine can be prescribed. So yeah, in the UK, it's not too much of a problem over here, but depending on where you live, it could be completely different. The other annoying thing about it is that some of the side effects of medicine can be similar to the side effects of being gluten. So, yeah, that's annoying. Number 12, salt and pepper and other seasonings. Now this one comes down to generally a manufacturing statement and where the things are made. I've only ever in my life found one packet of pepper that said may contain gluten, so it is not the majority of cases. There is no way that salt by itself would ever contain gluten. It just comes down to where it's manufactured. But honestly, I just chucked this one in because I thought it was funny. Probably not one you're ever going to need to worry about. Number 13, straws. Now, I'm not talking about the plastic straws that kill the turtles. I'm talking about the alternative straws that people use to be kinder to the environment. Now, there are a couple of types of these. Ones we don't generally need to worry about is paper straws. A lot of research that I've read have found that paper straws are absolutely fine for people with celiac disease. The ones we maybe want to watch out for is the wheat straws and the straws made of an uncooked pasta noodle. Now, wheat straws are generally made from the stem of a wheat plant, stem of wheat. It's usually made of a stem of wheat. And that part actually doesn't contain gluten. However, they're probably processed quite closely to gluten-containing ingredients and therefore maybe something to be wary of. Now, in terms of the uncooked pasta noodle, why would you even do that? I've never actually personally had a pasta noodle as a straw before. Would love to hear where you got that, if that's something that's happened to you. Now I wanted to talk about a couple of things that you might have heard on the rumour mill contain gluten, but actually don't. You may have heard that the glue that envelopes have in which you lick, like that, contain gluten. However, this is generally not the case. Several people have done studies about this and they've reached out to envelope manufacturing companies. Do you know there's actually an envelope manufacturing association? Because I didn't until I researched for this video. And all of them came back to say, no, we don't use gluten in our glue. We actually use cornstarch. Now, I don't know how this rumor started, but it's pretty funny. The second thing that you may have heard contains gluten, but actually doesn't, is toothpaste. Now, I'm talking specifically about toothpaste in the UK. I'm not too familiar with the brands in the US or, anywhere else, but Coeliac UK has confirmed that they do not know of any brands of toothpaste here that contain gluten. So, not something to worry about. But if you are still a little bit worried about it, it's pretty easy to find online that both Colgate and Sensodyne are completely gluten-free across their entire range. And if there are not brands of toothpaste that you use, but you're still a little bit concerned, just do a quick Google. There are lots of gluten-free resources dedicated to toothpaste for some reason. So you'll probably be able to find out quite easily whether the toothpaste you use is safe or not. But if you're in the UK, you should be fine. Now, we're moving on to the weirdest places you guys have found gluten. First up, we got mashed potato. This one does seem very odd, but I'm going to have to go ahead and assume it's like a packet mix. You can get packet mix mashed potatoes or one of those ready mashed potatoes you can find in the supermarket. Maybe they've got gluten in it. I don't know. Bit weird. Canned unsweetened matcha. What the heck's gluten doing in there? Chai latte. Actually, that would have been a good one to mention. I have had a few places tell me that their chai was unsuitable for celiacs. I should have asked why. We got a few that say lipstick. Next one up is cornflakes. Yes, unfortunately, cornflakes are not just flakes of corn. I actually have a funny story about this one. I was talking to someone at my old job and they say they were trying out a gluten-free diet, and instead of coating their chicken breast in breadcrumbs, they chose to do cornflakes instead. And I was like, there's gluten in cornflakes. And they were like, what? No! Yep. Seasonings, just like we discussed. Oh, and we have got quite a few people that have had run-ins with some straws. I just hope that they were able to get their drink remade. Face moisturizer. Yes, actually, the one brand that I always remember has gluten in it is the Aveeno brand because it's made out of oats. Not gluten-free ones either. Cheese. That's a bit sad. Something we also didn't talk about today is blue cheese. There are some articles online that suggest blue cheese is not gluten-free due to the spores, the mold spores they use. Can sometimes be mold spores from wheat or rye or something like that. But recently, there has been an analysis of blue cheese samples conducted by Dr. Terry Corner's laboratory at Health Canada's Food Research Division, and they found that neither cultures used with gluten-containing media or those used with wheat-based dextrose contain detectable levels of gluten when formed into blue cheese. So that's interesting. But if you are worried about blue cheeses, there are actually types of blue cheeses that are made with gluten-free live cultures mold things, and you can generally find out which ones are which on their websites. Macarons, that's a bit sad. Why'd they need to use barley? That reminds me, I still haven't eaten a macaron. Damn it. Next up, we've got tea. Yes, it's true, some teas do contain gluten. And actually, there is a type of tea that's very common in Japan made out of barley, which would not be considered gluten-free at all. So watch out for that one. Strawberry laces, yes. For some reason, this might just be a working theory that I have that's completely not true, but lollies or sweets that are like long and wobbly always tend to have gluten in them. For example, I accidentally bought these darn rainbow belts about a year ago now at M&S, thinking, why would they have gluten on them? No, it's literally the second ingredient is wheat flour. You see that? If anyone at all knows of a rainbow belt brand that is gluten-free, please let me know because I'm dying to have one of these. Oh, canned tomatoes. What's gluten doing in there? Balsamic vinegar glaze and smoked almonds. Actually, that's another thing we didn't talk about. Nuts. A lot of packets of nuts seem to be and may contain gluten, especially if they've got flavours on them. Oh yes, here's another big one. Own brand Coke, like the cola, not the other stuff. Quite often has barley malt in it, at least the one at Sainsbury's does. Just gonna leave that one there. Now, I'm not entirely sure about this one. Anyway, and finally, my personal favourite, toilet paper at a hotel in Sri Lanka. Wipe your bum with wheat. Probably the last place I'd expect to find wheat. Okay, that comes to the end of 10 surprising things that may contain gluten, but not actually 10, we talked about quite a few more. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!